both mics are on the table, and are we ready to go, Elizabeth? Okay, go Rob. Let them go. All right, Rob said you go first, because he went first last time.
That's fine. So, good evening. My name is Kerr Fazone. I'm fine. I have no time constraints. I don't believe anyone's missing on our side. No elephants, expectations, make some progress.
Good evening, my name is Kevin Daly. I am fine.
Me.
I'm also fine. I have no time constraints. Missing on our side has been noted. No elephants, and my expectation is to make some progress.
Hi, I'm Jill Castellano. I am the Vice President of TALC and a peer collaborative teacher at Varsity Lakes Middle. I'm doing quite well. No time constraints except for our expected end time at 7. We have nobody missing from the TALC team, no elephants, and my expectations are to make some progress.
Hi, I'm Anna Witten. I am a third grade teacher at Colonial Elementary as well as the TALC secretary, and I am doing well. I have no time constraints, no elephants, and my expectation is to make progress.
Hello, my name is Samantha Howard. I am fine. I am a GCT at Hearns Marsh Middle School. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. I have no elephants, and I would also like to make some progress.
Good afternoon. My name is Shay Pearson. I am a testing coordinator at Benton Coast High School. I'm an adult ed instructor, and I'm also the TALC treasurer. I'm doing well. Missing's been noted. I have no elephants, no time constraints, and I'd like to make some progress.
Hello, my name is Amy Johnson. I am a 6th grade ELA teacher at Mariner Middle School. I am well. I have no time constraints, no missing, no elephants, and make some progress.
Good evening. My name is Iris Grimaldi. I'm a school social worker currently assigned to the High Senior High School. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing have been noted, no elephants, and I also look forward to making progress.
Good evening. Mario Dorstal, Southwood Myers High School math teacher. Doing well, no time constraint, no missing, no elephants, and making progress.
Hi, I'm Christina Starrett, and I am a kindergarten through 5th grade art teacher at Tortuga Preserve Elementary. I'm doing well. No time constraints, no one's missing, no elephants, and make progress, please.
Good evening. My name is Bob Scapatullo. I teach mathematics at Three Oaks Middle School, most of the area coordinator for TALC, and I'm doing fine. No time constraints, missing has been noted, no elephants, and expectations would make some progress, please.
Good evening. I'm Louis Fisher, Director of Instrumental Music at Gateway High School. I'm doing fine. A little bit of a sickness, but that's all right. No time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants, and expectations to make some progress.
Good afternoon. My name is LaShonda Hutchins Cologne, and I am the grade 3 through 5 math coach at Franklin Park Elementary. I am okay today. No time constraints. There's no missing, no elephants, and my expectation is to make some progress.
Hi, I'm Tara Sherman. I'm the school counselor at Raymond C. Page Elementary. I'm doing great. No time constraints, no missing, no elephants. Expectation is to make progress.
Robert.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Robert Dodig. I am doing well. I don't have any time constraints. Dr. Cole and Dr. Martin are missing from our team. I have no elephants, and if Rosie could show me those expectations. Oh, there's only one. Make progress, okay.
Hi, I'm Will Rothenberg. I'm doing well. No time constraints. Missing is noted. No elephants. Expectation, make some progress.
Good evening. I'm Heather Leonard, the Director of Staffing and Talent Management. I'm doing well today. I don't have any time constraints outside of our normal closure time. The missing have been noted, no elephants, and expectations. I'll also go with make progress.
Hi, my name is Amy Desamore. I'm doing just fine. I have no time constraints, no elephants, and my expectations are that we make progress.
I'm Carl Burnside, principal of Dunbar High School. I have no time constraints. I'm doing okay. Who's missing has been noted. No elephants. Expectations to make some progress.
Good afternoon. My name is Bonnie McFarland. I'm the Director of Insurance and Benefits for the district. I am doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing is noted. I do not have any elephants. And expectation is make some progress.
Jessica Duncan. I am doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing is noted, no elephants, and my expectations are to make some progress.
I'm Shannon Johnston. I'm doing great. No time constraints, missing has been noted, no elephants, and expectation is to make progress.
Good afternoon, I'm Ben Osman. I have no time constraints. I'm great. Missing's noted, no elephants, and expectations make progress.
Hi, I'm Mike Gatewood. I'm doing great. I have no time constraints. Missing's noted, no elephants, expectation, make progress.
Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Kelfi. I have no time constraints. I'm doing well. Missing has been noted. I have no elephants, and the expectation is to make some progress.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Suzette Rivera. I'm doing well. No time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants, and my expectations are to make progress.
All right, thank you, everyone. Amy?
Amy French, doing well, no time constraints, no elephants, and expectations are to help you make some progress.
And Rosie?
Hi, my name is Rosie Perez. I am doing well, no time constraints. And missing no elements and expectations the same.
And good afternoon, I'm Donna Mutzenard. I'm doing well today, and I have no time constraints. And my expectation is help you reach your expectation. And you were very kind to Rosie for her first time doing this tonight. Everybody doing the same expectation. Just remember that when we're telling stories. We have our norms posted up here that we did last week. Begin and end on time. We didn't quite make that first norm. Issues, not individuals. Assume good intentions. Limit sidebars. Restroom breaks when appropriate. Maintain confidentiality. Stay on topic. Have minutes distributed before next bargaining session. And cell phones on silent. So, according to the agenda, we are going to approve the minutes. And I know you did receive them. I received them. So, does anybody have any changes, additions, deletions to the minutes from our first meeting? Kirk.
I have something rather small. It's under the, what are these snapshots, Donna?
Yes.
Under the snapshot for Article 11, the last bullet. I think the words "and benefits" can be deleted. It's just called the Insurance Task Force. And we also had a reference to a provision of the TALC contract in that it was 11.09.
Okay.
So the snapshot of Article 11 at the end, it should
Last
say.
bullet, delete the words "and benefits."
Right.
And add a reference to 11.09 of the TALC contract, please.
Okay, anything else for the minutes? All right, seeing no one else's hands go up, can we accept the minutes with those corrections? All right, thank you, and thank you for getting them out in a timely fashion. All right, so for the next item on the agenda is Article 8. And I believe what we asked for last time is for everybody to get a copy of the revised Article 8, the proposed revisions, and everybody has received those, correct? Okay, so is there any more to story from what we had on the snapshot, which says cleanup language for performance evaluations? It's bound by Florida statute, has to plan and have to have a plan approved annually. And we talked about the NEAT process. So is there anything else that we need to expand on that story? For Article 8, performance evaluation. No expansion needed? Will?
I would just say, I think out of TALC, SPALC, and admin, I think TALC has the most language around evaluations because of some of the statutory requirements. So some of the existing contract language covers a lot of the ground. It's just about trying to clarify what's already there.
Okay. So with that, you got the language. Do we have the language to put up, or just in case somebody wants to make a reference to something? I don't know if everybody brought a hard copy or have a copy with them, so. Oh. Does anybody have anything they would like to bring up while Will's bringing that up on the screen? Kurt.
So our team has gone through this very carefully, and we have a number of like grammatical things, but there are a couple of, I guess, things that we wanted to discuss. So I don't know how, would you rather go from start to finish, or what would be easier?
I think probably start to finish. Yeah.
Then, all right.
It will help people who are listening in and people.
All right, so the big, the two things we wanted to discuss are at the end, so I'll go through the other things first. So under number 1, post-observation conference, on the third line, the word employees is plural, it should be singular. The employees will acknowledge.
What line is that?
The third line, post-observation conference, page 1 of the one up here. Sorry, I have 2 pages because I printed a little different. Go up 3 lines, Will.
So 181.
Right there, yes, thank you. And Will, at the end of that, the second to last, or the last sentence, after the words immediate supervisor, we either need shall or will there. Will apply? Shall apply? Under 1, the same sentence, or the same paragraph, employees must acknowledge receipt of this information, or the immediate supervisor will apply and override, may apply. Same change needs to happen in B1 as well, with the may or shall.
Hey, Kurt,
Yes.
if you change the first employees to employee, that last one probably should be employee too, right? Because it's plural.
Okay. Yeah, maybe the employee.
Rob, go ahead.
I think you should still say employees the last name.
Yeah, you'd have to say the, yeah, okay, that's fine. Then in, under managers rating, post-evaluation conference, the other, the immediate supervisor may apply and override, that second to last sentence again.
Okay,
The next section is number 2, immediate supervisor. Sorry? Number 2, immediate supervisor. It's on down a little bit. There you go.
there you go.
Let's see where it is on this one. So, Will, if you go to the end of the fourth to last line that starts with only administrators, and you got a comma there, put another comma after the word schedule in the next line. And then I think you need a period after the word staff in the next line, and the word no to be capitalized. Those are 2 separate sentences. And we had a question regarding some of the old language. In the old language, there was a specific carve-out for special instructional staff. As I read this, it seems to have encompassed that language that said a special instructional staff member basically gets to choose an administrator to do their evaluation that has some sort of knowledge of their job or something along those lines. Like an adequate supervisor. Is that the intent here, that this encompasses that special instructional language? Okay. Then if you go on to 8.03, assistance. Okay, so if you look at the second sentence, there's only 2 sentences there, I guess. It says, immediate supervisors may support employees by aiding in an individualized performance plan. The way that I read this is basically regardless of the evaluation that you get, Kevin could be highly effective, but his immediate supervisor could still prescribe some sort of individualized performance plan for him. So is the intent that an individualized performance plan can be developed for any employee, or only those employees that have some sort of documented deficiency on a final performance evaluation?
Go ahead, Bill.
I think in some ways this is a can they, should they. As you guys know, can they aid that person in the development? Yes, this says that they may. Should they? I don't know if there are administrators that have enough time to sit and plan out individual professional development plans with each of their employees. But I'm guessing that your interest is we don't want to find out. We want to try and set the standard for what we feel is reasonable before we get to that point.
Kevin.
As an example, kind of for the people in the room of PSEs, in the district of PSEs, there was individualized assistance plans. And so those could be developed to kind of help teachers kind of increase their performance or better their performance. And they were clearly delineated kind of things that had to happen before that was initiated, typically by the head of HR. The principal would call HR, I think, and say, I've got somebody who needs support. If they meet the criteria, the plan is developed. We go out to the meeting. It's the principal, an AP, somebody from downtown, the teacher, usually the head of HR for the first one. Everything is explained and worked out. And so again, I'm just concerned about the can they, should they, and I really don't want to find out. You'd be surprised sometimes how much time administrators have if they really want to get into something. So yeah, I really don't have an interest in finding out the can they, should they argument. I think it'd be good for us to delineate as well as we can kind of what would bring about this plan for these employees.
Do you have a suggestion on how to do that, Kevin? The language.
Not currently, but I see Will frantically writing over there, and so maybe he's working on it. I mean, I don't know, or Jill maybe has something, or Anna.
You want me to go to Anna first, Will? Okay, Anna.
So when I was reading through this, and I read 8.03 in the assistance, and then underneath that, number 1, highly effective says employees may request support. Effective said employees may request support. Needs improvement says immediate supervisors may offer support and assistance, and unsatisfactory says immediate supervisors must offer support and assistance. So that, to me, somewhat defines the process based on evaluation. Then when you go down to contract status, it does say probationary and annual contract are pretty much the same, but then the professional service part C, professional service contract and continuing contract, the bottom of that says continuing contract status who receive a manager's rating or final performance evaluation rating of needs improvement, developing or unsatisfactory will be enrolled in an intensive assistant program for the following year. So while I think some of this clarifies, it also is a little bit confusing because, especially when I look at that contract status, as a person who is an annual contract, will I never, like, which is the order of operations for that contract? Because in the very bottom, contract status part C, it says they will be enrolled in it. And the other parts, it's not very clear on if a person was in a different set of circumstances, how they would be eligible for it. I hope that makes sense. So I think there is an opportunity where it is defined a little bit. It is also a little bit vague on how each person would get there.
Rob?
Yeah, just a little clarification. 2C, 101234 Florida statutes prescribes that a person on a PSC or continuing contract has to go through intensive assistance. So we don't have an option there. The other two, probationary and annual, that's been bargained language relative to what we might do to assist those folks that are having challenges.
Go ahead, Anna.
Thank you for that clarification. So then my follow-up question to that is, would a person who is probationary contract or an annual contract, is it only probationary, they must be assigned a mentor, and if they're annual contract, they may request an employee mentor? So can a person in the annual contract status end up with an IAP?
Will?
No, because IAP is statutorily defined like Rob is saying. I think what you might be getting at is, could we apply the same standard to other contract status groups so that if you had an annual contract employee that wasn't effective, highly effective, and there were consecutive years of that they would get kind of the same sort of treatment, although maybe not all the statutory monitoring stuff. I think if I remember when I was sitting down with Lisa Vasquez around some of the questions and issues that we've received around this over the past couple of years, and some of the feedback from TALC about what it is that we as a district do well and what we do not do well. I know that one of the things that people have questioned is when you end up in a situation where you're struggling, you're non-reappointed, and you don't feel like you've gotten the direction in terms of what it was that you should have done differently in order to stay employed. I think in some cases we have communicated that, but I think this is the opportunity, if I remember correctly from the conversation with Lisa, was for people to proactively request that support and assistance, to say, my evaluation says that I'm not doing well here, what do I need to do differently? And then if it gets really bad, that, you know, someone's gonna need to come up with a plan to help you. If they really think it's that bad, they probably have an idea. And again, I think most principals have done that intuitively, but there are the exceptions.
Anna?
So would the other employees, that would kind of activate, so to speak, a potential individualized performance plan? Instead of an I.
So this would be
IAP.
IPP instead of IAP?
Sure.
That's what I thought you were pointing towards.
Yeah.
I think if that is something that you guys think that we should look at just for consistency, I think is something that we could probably discuss. I think again, there are some differences though, like Rob said, statutorily for what an IAP requires in the documentation, and then, you know, there's the length, there's a lot of, the district's hands are tied around that, and so are the employees. It's a rigorous process for anyone who has not heard about it or seen someone go through it.
Okay, anything else on that? All right, Kerr and then Shay.
I have a couple other things that are beyond this language.
Oh.
Shay, if this is about.
Is this about what we just talked about?
It's within contract status there, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, oh, the job, yeah, go ahead.
You can ask him too.
No, go ahead.
One of the questions that we had was under 2 contract status for probationary and annual contract. It talked about the employee being assigned to someone who is, or the mentor being someone who had completed clin ed training or job-related training that is equivalent. Can you explain what that might be?
Well,
I don't have that part in front of me because I didn't want to scroll and move off of this. However, I want to say that for some special instructional positions, I know we were working on clin ed, but like if I'm an SLP, I might have to have different credentials in order to, you know, mentor, observe, evaluate-ish, you know, a coworker and their ability to get the job done. So I think that was to open it to more than just clin ed. And I think some of that might have been at the time of writing it. I don't know that we had clin ed available to everyone, including people that are not classroom teachers.
Thank you.
okay, that answers your question. Anything else? Kerr, are we ready to move on, or does anybody have anything else on this topic? Kerr?
Okay, I'll move on to 8.04. So if you go to item number 2 under manager's rating.
8.04. Okay.
Immediate supervisors must notify employees of, and then there's a blank. I believe that it's supposed to be the last part of that sentence in number 1, written feedback within 10 days of the observation, but I wanted to ask.
Kind of ends right there. Go ahead, Will.
So you're saying immediate supervisors must notify employees
Of written feedback within 10 days of
their manager's rating?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think
going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But you have But in the post-evaluation conference, you have the 10 days as well, but.
Go ahead. Well,
So that's saying, I think, 10 days for the immediate supervisor, advisor to provide notice and 10 days for the person to respond. Or no, I think it does address.
no.
Employees may request post-evaluation conference to be held within 5 days of receiving written feedback or the expiration of the 10-day timeline for them to provide feedback. So I think
all of that is in A2A below.
Yes, but I think that does give you exactly what you were saying, that 2 should say you have 10 days to provide written feedback of the manager's rating.
And then hold a conference after that? Oh, they may request a post. Okay, yes, yeah, you're correct.
One point of clarification too, because I know this came up in our pre-meeting, that the written feedback is not like handwritten, that it would be electronically in PeopleSoft. And so I don't know if there's an interest in changing that from written to electronic. We can do that.
I see Kevin nodding his head that he's okay with that, to change it to electronic instead of written.
So 2 is not incomplete because it continues on to 2A. So it's not incomplete.
I think I'm gonna make the adjustment that I think Kerr said. I think 2 is supposed to say immediate supervisors must notify employees of their manager's rating within 10 days.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're changing written to electronic feedback.
Should we say electronic written feedback within PeopleSoft? I mean, I think, and so I just, as you're typing, I want to run this in a scenario. So I'm a teacher, I have my post-conference, I get my rating, right? My administrator has 10 days to provide me with feedback about my evaluation. If I get that on day 3, I then have 5 days to request the meeting, correct? If the whole 10 days expires, the expiration of the 10 days is when my 5 days start, right? I just want to run it out practically in my head so we can explain it to people. I mean, it seems like it makes sense, but I need to work it out.
They're saying yes, that you're right on.
So just going off of memory, when you're in the PeopleSoft evaluation thing, the manager puts the rating in, they push it out to you for you to review it. You have time to review it and then approve it or acknowledge it, and then they approve it and submit it on. So I think like you were saying, this is after all of that's done, or after you've seen it, you've got that amount of time before they move to the next step. Does that sound?
Does that sound better?
Yeah, I just have to practically run it through my head because we're gonna have to communicate out like practically what that means for people.
All right, anything else on this, Kerr?
And Will, just to piggyback on that, earlier in the article, we used the phrase performance evaluation instrument. You can use that instead of PeopleSoft if you want. But that's just word choice. The only other thing that we had was in the manager's rating under the post-eval conference, all of the evals needed to be completed by May 1st. The current contract says May 10th. So we were wanting some conversation around why the move up of what, 10 days or so.
Okay, he is going to the date that everything has to be done by May 1st. He said it used to be May 10th. In the current contract, Kerr?
Yes.
In the current contract, it says May 10th.
I'll I'll have to scroll. I think that we had the reappointment and the evaluation, I think you're right, maybe May 10th for Spalk. I know it was different. I know there was a question, I don't know if Suzette can respond to this, but I know there was a question about when people receive their evaluation, when the internal hire recruitment event is each year, whether people were being provided enough notice, that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's a factor. I don't know when that recruitment.
Suzette, do you have anything to add to that? Yeah, we'll get you the mic.
And the recruitment fair around the staffing guidelines that staffing and talent management provide. But this past year, there was a lot of concern and question about if we post that eval time later in May, then teachers don't have the opportunity, or supervisors don't have the opportunity to have conversations with their teachers and say you should go to the recruitment fair to look for a new position for the next year.
Her.
That justification makes sense. The only thing is the job fair is held even before May 1st. In 2020, it was held on Saturday, April the 18th. And I believe last year is held around the 20th or something like that. So this May 1st still doesn't deal with that issue.
Okay. So do you want to go May 1st or May 10th?
I think we would need to caucus to talk about that. We've gotten rather diverse feedback on the intent to give the formal or the final performance evaluation as early as possible. You know, there are some principals that like to do them in April, right to your point, you know, so that folks can go to the job fair. Others still wait till May 10th, 11th, or 12th to do evaluations. So
So do you need to caucus or in a minute? Will?
I know, and I know that this language was drafted a while ago, so trying to pick back up with some of the conversation and kind of what the discussion was around that. I think kind of to your point also, what I recall coming out in labor management and other conversations was, you know, in some situations you want to know what your evaluation is as soon as possible. In some situations, you know, if that extra couple of weeks is going to be the difference between an effective and a highly effective, I'm okay with waiting as long as it goes in, you know, the direction that I want it to. I think that I think we had some conversation around some of the notice requirements too, and should there be something that says that highly effective people get notified first, or people that are less than effective get notified first. And this is just story to put up there, but I know that part of the back and forth on that was, you know, it would be nice to reward people by telling them, hey, everyone who hears by this date is highly effective, but by process of elimination, I'm going to know that that means that I'm not, which obviously then creates a whole separate set of issues. And so I don't know that there was any like perfect way to do it, but I do know, like you were saying, trying to be sensitive to allow principals the time to have that conversation, allow them, you know, as much time as is possible for people to demonstrate positive performance. You know, I know that there were a lot of competing factors that we were trying to account for in that.
Okay. Jill, I see the mic in front of you. Did you have?
I was just the gatekeeper.
Oh. Shay?
Going back to previous contract language, there was a line in here that said, the evaluations may be performed earlier when notice of dismissal or non-renewal is given. Is that something we want to look at?
I don't know if that's necessary, like if these are the deadlines, because you could still do it before that. And I'm trying to think of any situations that have come up recently where what you're saying is the case. The only ones I can think of are situations where someone was told in December, hey, I don't plan on bringing you back next year because of performance stuff. The rest of the year is going to be determinative of what kind of a reference you get. Those are few and far between. I think most of those are like professional standards type situations. So I don't know that language is necessary, but I think like you're saying that the intent would be the same. You could do it earlier. I think there's also some technical limitations though in terms of when the evaluations are opened. Because principals can't access evaluations in October to go in there and put someone's final evaluation in. I don't think they have that turned on until February-ish each year.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Rob.
So down in 5, the last sentence talks about recommended reappointments may be provided to an employee. And I think it should say prior to whatever date it is, not earlier. Just a grammatical thing. May be provided to an employer earlier than what? So I just think, so if we decide on May 10th, then it can say to an employer prior to May 10th, yeah.
Okay. Prior to the deadline? Need to caucus?
Yeah, let's caucus.
Okay, time? 10? District meeting caucus? Okay. You're gonna stay in here? Okay, and anybody who's here to observe, you need to leave the room, please, because the district is gonna caucus in here. TALC is going to their conference room.
You should.
So, Kerr, are you gonna do the caucus report? You need a mic. Oh, stay here.
Thank you. All right, so we had some rather robust conversation around the proposed language is what we're calling it.
That sounds good.
So we talked about the dates, and basically, you know, our interests come from a place of folks need to know their reappointment status, either yes or no, prior to the job fair. That's one of our interests, and that folks are notified in a timely fashion. We looked at moving the date up to May 1st, but then there was some discussion around that being some peak testing days. And I can't think of a worse way to start off someone's day testing than them knowing that, or being told the day before that they may not have a job, or you know they're not being renewed for the next year, and then having to come into a class full of kids and deliver tests. I think that goes against our employee morale interests, but that's really where our conversation's centered around. And so I guess maybe an option, Donna, that we came up with was that folks should be notified of their anticipated reappointment status at least 5 working days before the internal job fair. Spring internal job fair. And so
All right, hold on a second, Kerr. Let Rosie catch up with that.
Notified of anticipated reappointment by at least 5 working days before the spring internal job fair.
5 working days before?
Spring internal job fair. That way, if the job fair moves, this language is flexible. And principals may know their budgets by then and can have a conversation. They may not know that they can bring somebody back, but they could avail themselves of the job fair.
Okay. Rob, your caucus report first, and then if you want to comment on that option.
Yeah, we had conversation around the date, actually. May 1st, May 10th.
Okay, right.
Really, that was it.
Okay.
So then, I just couldn't help but think of Hope Springs internal, but eternal. I think it's a bit arbitrary to use the job fair. I mean, I'm looking at Suzette and occasionally availability of this building, things going on. I mean, I think, and there may be a day, we don't need a job fair, but.
Not in the near future.
So I think to choose an event like that is probably not the best way to construct the contract language, just saying. So we're fine with the status quo of May 10th.
Okay.
And I know the proposed language had May 1st for whatever reasons when this was drafted with the combined group, but yeah.
Okay. Jill?
So, the conversation around the anticipated reappointment, we threw out some dates like April 1st or April 15th. And the key is the idea that it would be an anticipated or a preliminary. And the reason we had that conversation is because oftentimes teachers are notified close to the last minute about reappointment. And I'm specifically now talking about reappointment. And what that does now is it puts teachers in a position to miss the job fair or miss opportunities to apply for jobs. And so the goal is if an administrator is aware that they may not be able to keep employees, and the example I used in caucus and that I will use here is a cut in DRAs. That is a normal thing that happens in schools on a yearly basis. This year you have 100 DRAs, next year you have 105, the year after you have 101. That is a normal thing that happens. So you have 105 members of the TALC bargaining unit, you have your DRAs, and I know that I'm probably not explaining this, but I know that you guys understand. And you get your allocations in the middle of March, and so you have 105, you're fully staffed, and you find out you only have 100. You know now 5 people need to go at that time. Now I get allocations change. You could get some more information, numbers could change. I know that that is fluid information. But the goal here would be to let those 5 employees know that you anticipate the possibility of not rehiring because of allocations, and you'd like to encourage them to attend the job fair because of an anticipated issue. I get that this can be a fluid thing, but if a teacher, if an administrator waits until May 10th to communicate to a teacher, they could have lost any opportunity to find a position within the district, and one of our interests is retaining highly qualified teachers. They may have missed the opportunity when an administrator could have known a month or 2 months in advance that cuts needed to be made.
All right, Will?
I think one of the things too, and this is, I guess just more story, but from some of the conversations that we've had over the past couple of years with the Turnaround School Committee, I also know that the recruitment season begins at different points in the year for different schools. And so when we've had Dr. Lee Master and others, talking about what it takes to staff their school, they're starting in January, basically. So I think that in terms of tying the date to the recruitment fair and pushing it back, to meet that, I think in some ways that could make our recruiting efforts more difficult. The other thing, and I don't know if Suzette wants to say anything about this, but I'm sure that among recruitment people, there's also, some competition that you maybe don't want to broadcast when you plan on hitting up College of Education every year, because you want to be the first one there, and you want to, selectively maneuver to try and get the best crop of recent graduates. But I think the other thing is, in some ways, we're trying to deal with 2 issues, which is what's fair notice to people who are currently in the district about their evaluation, and then kind of when do we need to make some of the decisions about who comes back and who doesn't. Because I think, like Jill's saying, you could also have the alternate situation where your enrollment figures look like they're going to drop, and so people are told they don't have a job, but they do have a job, and it's just things are not finalized at that point.
Okay, anybody else? Yes.
When we spoke about this in our caucus, I brought up the fact that me, along with a couple others, we kind of represent a small, select group of teachers where there may only be 1 or 2 of us in a school, and if we're not going to be told that we're not going to be retained for the following year, and it's not until like in May, then it makes it real hard for us to find another position somewhere else, because just as there's only a handful of us in a school or in a district, that's also the same in other districts as well. For instance, me being a high school band director, well, there's only 15 high schools in Lee County. That means there's only 15 high school band directors. That means there's only 15 high school band positions in Lee County. That's the same just about everywhere. So when those positions are advertised, you have a lot of people that are going for those positions, and they get filled up quick. So if we're waiting until May to tell somebody that's in a position like mine that we're not going to be retained, that literally could put us out of a job for a year.
Kevin?
So I think for me, as well, it's kind of two issues, to Will's point. But I think the easiest part of recruitment and retention is retention. And so I think, and I think we also have to look at, like, you know, it used to be if you were non-renewed because you had a PSE or a continuing contract, there may have been a valid reason behind it. I still stand up for the fact that teachers are non-renewed who are effective and highly effective. And so if our goal is to retain and also recruit, but to focus on being retention, because we've already spent the $40,000 to get them, and they've been a reasonably good employee, do we have a commitment to ensuring that they're able to access jobs at other schools, you know, before the general public? And you know, I think maybe you're right tying it to the spring recruitment fair, and we may not have a legal obligation, but do we have a moral obligation? And so when we talk about tying it to the spring recruitment event, I every year talk to people who say one thing. Well, if they'd have told me last week, or if they'd have told me 2 weeks ago, I could have gotten that job. And so, you know, again, I think it's difficult to find a balance, but honestly, that's why we're here, to find that balance and come up with that language that allows us to retain as many good employees that have simply been non-renewed as we can. And so I think you're right too, Will, about the idea you don't want to say when your recruitment fair is, because, you know, Collier will be a week before, and, you know, I get all that. But again, you know, I think those are some of the roughest phone calls I get from people who have been non-renewed, who were effective and highly effective, and have missed the spring recruitment fair when they would have had early access to jobs across this county, and now perhaps go all summer. Singleton issues especially, but, you know, even elementary, go most of the summer without the idea that they may have some place to land. And so I think as, you know, until we get to the point where there's more PSCs and continuing contracts, we need to think about kind of what our moral obligation is to our employees who have done a good job, who have been non-renewed, and who, you know, maybe need opportunity to find a spot with everybody else.
Well,
I think too, kind of to your point on that too, I think that this year there were 3 or 4 non-reappointment review requests. And I believe that because of some of the staffing shortages, most of those people found jobs prior to having that meeting. I think in a lot of cases, if they haven't, we're able to put them in touch with recruitment and help them find positions, even in situations like you described where they're kind of highly specialized in terms of what they teach. And I just say that I think for the most part, my experience has been that the district is meeting that obligation. I think what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the consequences of not meeting that for an individual maybe warrant a closer look. That even if we're getting it right 99% of the time, for that 1%, for that one person, that's the only thing that matters.
And I don't necessarily think the number of reappointment review meetings is indicative of the problem. Because in order to have a review reappointment meeting, you have to A, know, and I think we do a pretty good job. You then have to B, kind of ask for it, and then, you know what I mean? So it's not an automatic. It's not everybody who's non-renewed who meets the criteria gets an appointment for a meeting. So the fact that there are only 3, again, I would love to have this data. How many people who were effective and highly effective were non-reappointed? I think I've asked for it every year, and every year there seems to be but we can't really tell you, but I think you can. And so I would warrant a closer examination of that total. Now, we could offset that with how many people eventually found jobs, but I don't think the number of reappointment reviews is indicative of the fact that these things aren't happening. I think that it's a statewide problem, and we're not exempt from any statewide problem that I can think of that deals with education. But I do think again, we need to look at the idea that if somebody's effective or highly effective and hasn't been renewed, how early are we telling them and what resources are we giving them, outside of this, which they may not take advantage of for whatever reason, to kind of give them the opportunity to be retained.
Well,
I also want to add, because I think Kevin kind of alluded to this, about the statewide issue. I think that a lot of that stems from the statutory language that says you can't have a contingent renewal. So I think he's right there, but I just wanted to make sure that that was kind of captured for the minutes, that that's not because of a decision that's been made by TALC or by the district, that's Florida statute. You can't say you're highly effective, automatically welcome back. That's not permitted.
okay. Anyone else? Jill?
So I guess my question is, what's the middle ground? We've all agreed that May 10th is the best date in terms of a finalized reappointment, a finalized evaluation, because we talked on our side, and I think our principals on the team would agree that maybe telling someone the day before they have to administer some very serious tests for our students is not in the best well-being of our teachers. So I think that that's something that both sides can say that's good. So May 10th sounds like a better date, but what's the middle to support people who find out in those later times in the year that they are non-reappointed for whatever reason? That's not my concern. They've been non-reappointed, and because they were notified and the principal followed the rules in the contract, they were notified after the opportunity to attend an internal recruitment fair. What can we do to support those employees? Because like Kevin said, he gets the calls. I wish I'd known. I would have gone to the recruitment fair, because some people love their school. They think it's great. They don't want to leave, right? And they have no desire to go to a recruitment fair, but for whatever reason, for non-renewed allocation, some issue. So what can we do to help the people in that situation to keep them in our district amidst a very serious shortage of people, not a teaching shortage, but a shortage of people who now want to be teachers? What's our middle ground?
Rob?
So, I'm just trying to follow what Jill was saying. So in their caucus, they discussed May 10th continuing to be the date that principals would need to finish their evaluations by, essentially. Is that correct?
Yes, the finalization.
Okay. But you're advocating for a date earlier than that to tell people that are going to be non-reappointed. Am I characterizing that right?
Yes, and we used words like anticipated or preliminary notification, like you're anticipating not being able to rehire.
I just wanted to clarify, because I think Will characterized it earlier as discussing two issues, and I think maybe we are. So
We are.
yeah, I think, I said that
is everybody agrees on that. We'll do it officially. with
evaluations
thumbs and
have to be done by the
everything,
10th. Yeah, so
But
we're
this
good with
is
that.
another issue, yeah.
This is the reappointment date,
Right.
essentially. So, what is the middle ground? I don't know. I think part of the middle ground is agreeing that May 10th is still the date that evaluations have to be done. So, I don't know if we want to put that up there as an option, and
Yes, we can. Well, we have May 1st and May 10th in there, so we need to clarify that. So just to do it officially as an option, and then everybody.
no, the current language says the date for completion of the teacher's final performance evaluation shall be May 10.
But we had that May 1st date in there as well.
First is just in the draft language.
Okay, that's what I mean, yes. That's in the draft language.
So regarding the
So
final
status
performance
quo,
evaluation,
basically. Yeah. So the option would be status quo with current for completion of evaluation. And, right.
I just
Anna.
wanted to clarify how we ended up in this situation, potentially talking about two different things. When we asked where or why the change from May 10th to May 1st, it was brought up getting closer to the date for the recruitment fair, which we all agree, if on our side, that if you would want to be informed before you would want the opportunity to go to the recruitment fair, the internal recruitment fair, if you were being non-renewed. May 1st is not a great day because on May 2nd, you're gonna walk into a classroom and have to administer fast testing. That would not be a best testing environment for anyone involved. So that's how we got to the conversation of, okay, May 10th is better than May 1st. However, how do we also allow an opportunity for our employees to go to the internal job fair? And so, yes, it may be two separate things. Maybe we can address this issue somewhere else in the contract. But for us, that's how it was encompassed into one issue. That we wanted that, we came to the place of anticipated reappointment, explained it a few times. So that's kind of how we got there, because when we asked about the May 1st date, it was referenced the job fair.
Rob?
yeah, so I think that's right. However, this language was drafted before the FAST was even dreamt of. This was before I even came back last September. This language had been drafted. So, I think it is, I mean, if you want to call it one issue, we can, but it's really two dates, notification, and then when should evaluations be done? I mean, and I think in the human resources world, this is discussed often. How and when do you tell an employee they're not coming back? And there's a group of folks that will advocate the soonest you can tell them, the better. Well, there's a group of folks that will say they're going to do poor work after that. They could become a safety concern after that. There's all kinds of things that could happen after that. And so an employer has to balance that. And so with your help, I think we're trying to figure out the best way to do that. I just want to ask, because I don't know, has there historically been a problem with the date being May 10th? Because I think it's been that date for a long time.
Kevin?
The only issue around May 10th is access to the job fair. So that's the big problem. The problem around May 10th is access to the job fair.
I got you.
And so that's pretty much the May 10th date.
Will?
I think one of the other things, and I don't know how many people are tuned in or will watch this eventually, but I think one of the other things is making people aware of when the job fair is going to be. My understanding is that in the past, recruitment has worked with people. I think like you guys said, there's really no good time for bad news, and so I know that one year we had that where people were upset because they were told that they were being non-reappointed, and then going to the job fair in short order after that, and hadn't had time to collect their thoughts. I think the best that we can do is continue to try and work with those people, maybe on an individual basis, and make sure that there's communication out there. And if someone wants to sign up for the job fair, through alternate means, I think, again, to my knowledge, anyone who's been in that situation, recruitment has worked with, because we are short teachers. I mean, we don't have the luxury of turning people away at those events.
Carl?
So
So I decided to kind of look at my old scent files. One of the reasons, May 1st really doesn't work. I just went through the last, I'm a nerd, I just keep everything. But I decided on my scent file, because I know what I have done in the past would be to send an email to a teacher who it would be too advantageous to them to attend the job fair. So that's how I found the date. So I know in 2018, it was April 14th. In 2019, it was April 13th. Of course, last year was April the 29th. So May 1st would not, I think what has to happen, as opposed to putting a date to it, you could say we'll make an attempt to notify teachers of something of that nature to talk about. I would want to, it's something I still want to kind of craft in my mind, and also talk to other colleagues and so forth. Like I said, that's how I found the dates, because I knew that in the past what I would do, because I would send an email, Miss So-and-so, just let you know the recruitment fair is taking place on this date. So that way, and that's how I kind of found it. I'm not gonna say what the names are, but anyway, putting a date is really gonna be counterproductive, because those dates are fluid. So I would avoid the whole date thing, and like I said, work through it.
All right, Jill?
So, that's why for the reappointment, so you're finalizing your, evaluations, your end of the year performance, that's the May 10th date that we think is best for that. And obviously finalizing your reappointment status, but that's why we put up the idea of an anticipated, or letting teachers know of an anticipated or preliminary need to attend the recruitment fair 5 business days, or whatever word would work, prior. That's why that was in our option, because we want to encourage administrators that if they know or they anticipate not being able to rehire an employee, that they notify them prior to that recruitment fair, or at least, like, I appreciate what Carl does by telling them, I would like to encourage you, because you're giving that person the opportunity to get ready and go to that recruitment fair, and they're encouraged to go, and now that person has an opportunity to find a position in the district, and we don't lose a highly qualified employee in our district.
Rob?
Yeah, so I know this is more like an option, and I appreciate Heather, who has all the expertise in staffing, coming up with this, but I mean, is there a compromise solution where we can agree to language that directs labor management in the staffing guidelines that we agree to every year, to advise the principals of the date that they should notify folks that are being non-renewed? Because it is, just like Carl said, it is flexible, or that date is fluid every year.
Okay, did you understand what he just said, first of all? All right, he's saying direct that it would be labor management when they do the staffing guidelines that would notify principals that this is coming up, and come up with a date. And I have Carl, then Jill, then Kerr.
Okay, so being an old guy, a couple things, he could throw a potential fly in the ointment, unintended consequences. There are a couple things to consider. One is that sometimes the state is slow about releasing, having an idea of the funding, and so sometimes, like, I know budget wants to a lot of times put those allocations, but sometimes they get delayed. I mean, at least in my experiences, and makes it even tighter to make those things. So we can put that in there possibly. The other thing is this: in the past, there were times that principals were accused of saying that they don't have a spot for them, and the person goes to recruitment fair, they get picked up, and then a miracle occurs, and they get those 5 units that they thought they were going to lose. We've seen that, and then sometimes they really didn't know, because what may have happened, a week or two later, a couple weeks later, someone tells you they're leaving. And so then you get the opening. So anyway, there are a lot of potential unintended consequences that occur during this. So just wanted to point those things out.
Okay, thank you, Carl. I said Jill.
And we had discussed some of those unintended consequences, especially knowing that your allocations can be very fluid. And also we did discuss the issue of, you may tell a teacher based on allocations, I don't think I can reappoint you, and tell them early enough that they could be at the recruitment fair. And then you're right, someone comes in 3 weeks later and something in their personal life has changed, and now you can keep the person you just sent to the recruitment fair. And so I understand all those, we did discuss those, because, there's so many moving pieces to keeping an employee. It's not, I know that when administrators get those allocations, that they can change. It's not written in stone, and right. And we get that. And I think that the staffing guidelines is a good start for a middle ground. But again, if it's in the staffing guidelines, how do we ensure that an employee who really, I'm really attempting to look out for employees here and to keep our people, because like we've discussed, there's unintended consequences, there's issues here, but we have employees that are non-reappointed and they're told they're told in a way too late, or they missed that recruiting fair. So do we offer not a full recruiting fair, but do we offer some other secondary opportunity for them, maybe after May 10th, that there'll be another opportunity for them to attend a secondary digital recruiting opportunity? We just want to make sure that if an employee, for whatever reason, is non-reappointed, they are given opportunities to either attend the initial recruitment fair or attend another recruitment fair, like that middle ground of what do we do? Okay, Kerr, what are you next? Yeah. One more word.
So correct me if I'm wrong, so the staffing guidelines come to TALC labor management in March, I believe, correct? Yeah. And so what you're proposing is to just add this date in there, I guess, about the job fair, and a note to administrators to notifying the employees of the opportunity that they think they will non-renew?
Rob?
Yeah, essentially we would advise the principals in a labor notification that, along with, and point out that here are the staffing guidelines. We'd like to point out that individuals that you're going to non-reappoint, teachers you're going to non-reappoint, need to be notified by blank date. Sure.
And I'm looking at the staffing guidelines from the previous year. The top says post on the TALC bulletin board. Do we only send out the staffing guidelines to administrators, or does it go to the entire bargaining unit as well?
I believe it just goes to administration.
Who then posts on the TALC?
Correct.
Okay, anything else? Jill?
So how do we ensure that that recommendation through labor management is followed?
By whom? Principal?
Yes.
The same way you would determine whether or not contract language was followed.
So it could be great.
We can grieve staffing guidelines. Sir?
That's not really interest-based, is it?
You said, but I do kind of want to.
It's a valid point. I mean, yeah.
Typically, we can't grieve staffing guidelines.
Yeah.
And so when asked, how are we going to ensure that it happens, you say the same way we ensure the contract happens, and that's through the grievance process. So if you're
No. Jill said, how do we find out?
Okay.
I said the same way you find out the contract's not followed. That was it wasn't,
Okay. I'm just wondering if you're extending a right, which I'm more than happy to accept.
So I also need to say this. I don't think, and Suzette can correct me if I'm wrong, but honestly, if there is an effective or highly effective teacher that doesn't get to the job fair, but later applies for job opportunities in this district, I'm assuming they're working in this district. I mean, we're 200 teachers short, so I know we're trying to resolve a problem. Jill's concerned about employees, and I think we all are, but bring on all the teachers you can. I mean, I don't know if we're trying to solve a problem that's really not a huge problem.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we have several options up here. Oh, we have one on this page too. Yeah. All right, we have an option for completion of evaluations May 10th. Kevin? Do you need to say something before I finish this? Okay.
Well, yeah, I just want to make sure we go back to process around the assistance one.
Oh, when we finish this?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. We have an option that folks should be notified of an anticipated reappointment status at least 5 working days before spring internal job fair. And we have option 3, labor management would work with STM guidelines, the staffing guidelines, to notify principals about when to let teachers know about anticipated reappointment prior to job fair. So we have those 3 options. Yeah, it was prior to job fair. So do we have a straw design anybody would like to do, or one option?
Can we have like 5 minutes in the hall?
5 minutes in the hall?
Thanks.
Okay. You guys need, okay. You have a caucus report for us?
Yeah, I have a quick caucus report. We obviously discussed the little three, I don't know, the points of contention. I don't know what to call it. And I mean, we had really good discussion in the hall. I think I think our team came to consensus around being able to live with May 10th as it currently is.
Okay.
We're okay with the draft language. We would just like to go back and discuss the IPP for a minute, and maybe we can test a straw design. Oh, and we're also, Kevin reminded me, we're also, we reached consensus on the staffing guidelines as well. We think that's a good idea.
Okay, so we can put a straw design together and check that out with the staffing guidelines option and the May 10th option.
That's fine with me.
That would be our straw design, 1 and 3, right? Is that okay with you, Rob?
Yes.
Straw design of 1 and 3? Okay.
Yeah,
Number 1 is May 10th.
12?
Yes, for final evaluations.
That was mine.
Option 2 was the one, we're doing 1 and 3 as a straw design. That was the 5, notifying someone at least 5 working days before the spring internal job fair if they were being reappointed or not.
That was number 2.
That was number 2. But we're looking at 1 and 3. 1 is the May 10th deadline for evaluations, completion of evaluations. Not evaluations, but completion of them. And number 3 is labor management will work with staffing guidelines to notify principals about when to let teachers know about anticipated reappointment prior to the job fair. So we have a straw design of 1 and 3. Anybody need to say anything else about that straw design or have anything else to say? All right, can I see thumbs? 1 and 3.
Yes, we're still talking about
Then after this. All right, we're good. We have that done. Now let us clear some of this paper and we'll start on the IPP. Okay, we can, yep.
Oh, no.
Okay, what about IPP? Who's going? Kerr? I know, I'm not going to say that anymore, by the way.
Say it, we'll say it, we'll get it.
I just made a comment that we all do nothing but talk about how much we hate acronyms, but we're very, very quick to invent them. So on 8.03, we're back to the individualized performance plan, and we're not comfortable with the way that the language reads, because the plain language reads, it implies that an administrator could put anyone on an individualized assistance or performance plan. So we thought an easy fix would be to add, let's see.
Okay, hold on a second, let Will get back up there so everybody can see it. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I'm kind of thinking out loud here. Under 8.03, that third line that starts with immediate supervisors, maybe add something that says, for employees with a documented necessity or deficiency, immediate supervisors may support and continue the line from there. But just putting a note that this is for employees with some sort of documented necessity that would, trigger the IPP.
Okay, Will.
So as I was reading that back, again, I think the intention at the time that we were drafting it was for it to be supportive, not for it to be like punitive. One of the concerns that just crossed my mind, and I know we've had this in other contexts with like the non-reappointment stuff where it's, we put language in there that says if someone has a letter of reprimand, you can non-reappoint them. And then a lot of people got letters of reprimand because it was the only way for, a principal to non-reappoint them. I have a sudden little bit of reservation about would putting it in there to say the only way that you can do this is if someone has a negative evaluation lead to more negative evaluations, and thinking, is there perhaps another way to say what I think you're trying to say, which is it should be limited to some of those extreme situations, or that there should be evidence that it's necessary before you require someone, to do extra.
I think that, thanks, I think in regards to like the increase in letter of reprimands leading to non-renewals, because that was a new criteria, I think if you've got a principal that never writes letter of reprimands and all of a sudden writes a bunch of letter of reprimands to support non-renewals, I would want to know where was the accountability for the administrator there? Because clearly that's a connection. Like, I'm an administrator, I haven't written 5 letter of reprimands in my career, but in 1 year I read 15, and those are the same 15 people I non-renew. I mean, that to me begs for accountability. So I think unfortunately, no matter what we write, there may be some of that. I mean, Carl says it, hasn't said it in a couple of years, but he kind of says it frequently, that we're kind of here to kind of buffer against the 5% of administrators who are continually problematic, and you guys kind of counter for the few employees that may be problematic from your perspective. So, I mean, again, it's an opportunity for accountability. And I'm hopeful with the new superintendent and chief of staff and assistant superintendent, that there's a real opportunity to embrace accountability for people across the district who need it. But, I mean, it's that can they, shall they. I just think if we don't say in there that there needs to be something, then anybody who does it, my response will have to be, well, it didn't say they couldn't, and can they and should they? And like Jamie used to say, sometimes being a bad boss is not a violation of the contract. And so I also think there needs to be transparency for the employee about why they've been asked. I mean, again, like for me, I would have been put on one of these for lesson plans, I guarantee you. Like, I was consistently bad, horrifically bad. And so, like I used to say about my evaluation, if I went in and Rob said, you're never on time, I'm like, no, I'm always on time. But if I went in and he said, you've only done 20 lesson plans, like, yeah, you got me. There's nothing much I can say there. So again, when we talk about kind of notice deficiencies or however we want to phrase it, I think we need to be able to get it away from a can they, should they argument. Because unfortunately, for the people that they shouldn't, they can and probably shouldn't do it, there's no defense for the employees, again, in an atmosphere where we're looking to boost morale and keep employees and take things off of employees' plates and make employees better able to do their jobs without worry.
Rob?
Yeah, I would just say that it's funny, the perspectives, because I read that the first time as saying this was supportive language, like we're going to help you if you want it, so to speak. And so I'm just thinking out loud with the employee's approval or consent or something to that
That's not
effect.
reflected in 8.03 at the top there.
No, I know.
No, that's what he's saying.
I know, I'm just,
And I appreciate that, and I'm gonna be honest with you, employees may need support from time to time, just like any bus driver, custodian, administrator, right? But I think it's best when there's, like, when you can point to a reason for providing support. I mean, I get enough phone calls where people say people are picking on me. I can just imagine the phone calls I'm gonna get related to certain administrators in certain schools where this becomes kind of the aggravation du jour or aggravation of the year. And, you know, I think it's important because I think we should do everything we can do to maintain, you know, people we hire. Because again, the ease is in the retention, not the recruitment. And so like the IAP is relevant to the end of the year evaluation. I'm going to tell you, if an administrator has a teacher in their building, they know are struggling, they know before the end of the year. They know relatively soon. And so like this idea, this is not maybe contingent on end of the year evaluation, right? Because I want administrators and teachers to lean in and assist those and support those who need it as soon as a problem or a deficiency is noticed. But just the idea that, you know, just because we say they may do one, everyone will see that as supportive. I'm not sure that's correct in all cases.
All right, I have Will and then Anna.
I just was wondering, in that last part of the sentence, it says, by responding to other requests for assistance that an immediate supervisor determines can be reasonably provided. I'm wondering if that part about requests, should it go first? To say, you know, at the request of the employee, the immediate supervisor can provide, you know, aid and support. I don't know if that totally solves the problem, because I think, like you're saying, you want people to be proactive, but I think it seems like there's a little bit of tension between, I want you to be proactive, but I don't want you to tell me what to do, but I want you to help me out, but only when we both agree that I need it. Like some of that dance, I guess, again, hopefully people have the relationships, and the majority of the time we're not going to have that issue, but I could see someone taking offense at, you know, someone else coming to them and saying, here's the plan for how you can get better, if they don't think they need to get better.
And Anna.
Okay, I think that we may be on the right track. So when I look at all the information that's in 8.03, which includes 1, performance evaluation ratings, A, B, C, and D, and there's also contract status that has A, B, and C. So the IAP is statutorial and is tied to needs improvement and unsatisfactory, correct? For the PSCs.
Right.
Or CCs or ADCs. Okay,
Correct.
anyways, then going back, because now we have the IPP. The IPP is not attached to unsatisfactory or needs improvement, correct? Because the first line says, in order to support the retention of highly skilled and highly engaged workforce, the district will provide employees with support in the attainment of highly effective ratings. So if I choose to attain a highly effective rating, I could request my supervisor to help me develop an IPP. Which I don't know what that is, right? They could provide me with job-embedded training opportunities if I needed to get that for highly effective. Or if I had a different request, like maybe I said, hey, I would like to go watch the other third grade teachers teach, then they could respond to that assistance if they determined that could be reasonably provided.
I see head nodding over there. Rob?
I think the intention, I don't know because I wasn't there, but I'm assuming the intention of this was to be collaborative. Yes.
So then continuing further down, I see that a lot of this stuff, besides the one part, statutory, because then when it's defined, the employees may request support if they're highly effective. Maybe I want to become highly effective in, third graders writing assessments, because that's always a fun one. Or effective employees may request support to obtain highly effective. Needs improvement, they may offer support. Unsatisfactory, they must support. And then it continues down, is the intent of this section all about providing support to the employees that want to obtain highly effective versus I need you to do this training because of something I saw you do, like being voluntold and then the employee seeking support.
Rob?
It does make sense, and you went through it earlier appropriately too, I think. I think the only things that are required are a PSC or CC going on intensive assistance under 2C, and a probationary contract employee must be assigned an employee mentor. So, and if you're unsatisfactory, immediate supervisors have to offer support and assistance.
Kevin?
So if I'm a probationary employee, I don't have an evaluation from the year before, right? So.
Right.
Right. Again, I like where I think we're going to this, and I just want to make sure and ask a question, right? So is this plan in place prior to the release of a probationary employee, except in cases of, like health, safety, welfare? So I'm a probationary employee, I do everything else fine, no health, safety, welfare issues, right? I just have some classroom management problems. Are you then saying that this plan precedes my dismissal as opposed to what it currently is now, which is Tuesday, hey, it's Wednesday, your classroom management stinks, thanks for coming out?
Will?
I can't say that that happens in every case with the probationary employee, like the way that you described it. I think, though, that we have language in Article 5 about non-reappointment review that if you're responsive to coaching and you're a probationary employee, you can request to have that non-reappointment reviewed. I think if the question is, are we supporting probationary employees before we are evaluating them, I think the answer to that is yes. I would imagine from the principals in the room that they're probably paying closer attention to people who are not known entities to make sure that, like you're saying, everyone is safe first and foremost, and then, that kids are learning, and then people are plugged in with their Apple's mentor or whoever else and getting the things done that they need to.
Kevin, does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right, Jill? Yep.
So what I wanted to kind of get some clarification on is where it says performance evaluation. So one of the things that, it just says performance evaluation. So does that imply your final performance evaluation, or could that include various walkthroughs, other types of observations during the year? So if I'm a teacher and Carl is my principal, and he's coming in and he's doing walkthroughs and he's doing observations and it's December and there's cause for concern, is that what we're getting at? Do those count towards the idea of getting that support, especially where it says unsatisfactory, where it says must offer? Or is it the final? That's my first question.
Are you talking about in one? Like, does rating apply to each different part of that? I think you can ask for help anytime you feel you need it. I mean, I hope that people feel that way. If you don't know if you're doing a good job, you should be able to go to your boss and say, hey, am I doing a good job? What do you think I can and should work on? I don't, if people are having comfort issues with that, or, you know, if there's individual situations that that's not happening, I think, again, labor management, you know, working with your TALC rep, I think there's ways to hopefully address those on a one-by-one basis. And so I don't know if the question is more about what is the expectation for immediate supervisors, but again, I think from an employee standpoint, you should always be able to ask your boss for help. And then again, they can go through and say, here's what I can reasonably do to help you.
Jill?
So if you scroll up a little, or scroll down, whichever way will show. Okay, so D, do you see where it says must offer? So now the responsibility is on the supervisor. So when it talks about like when it talks about the performance evaluations, Will, my question is like, is it the final, obviously we don't want to, like, I guess, is it at any point if you get an unsatisfactory, is the administrator required then to provide you that assistance? So if I have an observation in October and I get an unsatisfactory, is that when the must comes in?
Well,
I can't speak for the principals, but I can't think of a situation where you would be saying that someone's unsatisfactory and not giving them, here's the things that I think you need to work on, or here's what I would like to have you do differently moving forward. I mean, I think at that point, there probably is some direction being given to the person. And so I think in some ways, then support and assistance, you know, I'm going to put a reading specialist in your room because we really need to work on this. And I think that would go with the observation. I think it would go at the end of the school year, but again, I would defer to the principals in the room on specifically how they carry that out.
Jill. And so a couple more things. And then I noticed like where it says needs improvements, it says may offer. So I have a concern about the use of the word may, because I think to myself, you know, like, so when I look at unsatisfactory, right, and I think of in my role as a teacher, to me, like, unsatisfactory, if I was thinking of a student in my class, that student is most likely failing, right? When I think of needs improvement, I think of a student that's sitting there with a D, they're below a C, they're really struggling. I would be expected to intervene. I would be expected to call home. I would be expected to offer supports. And so that's the expectation, that's my standard if a student is below a C. And I get that we clump needs improvement and developing together, so that's a touchy subject because newer teachers getting to developing is a normal thing because you're learning your craft. My concern is that we have a teacher who is in a needs improvement situation and they need that support, and it is then optional for the administrator to give it to them. And that's just some story that I want to kind of put out there and obviously get some feedback from the administrators. My other thing is where it talks about offering a mentor who has completed clinical education training. So I am an Apples mentor, and it's very clear what my job responsibilities are. Meeting with my teacher once a week and planning with them. Going in and doing the classroom, I don't like to say observation, I like to say visit because I'm not an administrator, I'm there to coach. Are those the same expectations for that mentor? Like the same job responsibilities, same supplement attached to providing an employee who is in an assistance program? Is that the same?
Anybody? Rob?
I looked at Will, he looked at me. Jill, I'm sorry, I heard your question at the end, but all that led up to that, I'm unclear. Can you clear it up?
So, Amy French may be able to help us. I know she's a facilitator, but as an Apples mentor, Rob, I have specific duties. So, I meet with my mentee once a week, and we discuss, I help with planning, I help with all kinds of things, right? We meet once a week. Then I do a pre-observation conference, observation, post-observation, and I believe, I'm gonna look at Amy, I think I have to do 8 months or 9 months. So I have to do, because August is a wonky month, so really we start in September, and the expectation that I would go to May, there's a few days in June, I don't necessarily, but I'm expected every week to meet with them and to do a pre-observation, observation, and a post-observation, like a pre-observation conference, observation, post-observation conference every month. Those job duties are very clear, and they're in PeopleSoft for us to document. When I look at where it says contract status, and it talks about the employee can request an employee mentor, or they're given the mentor, do we have job expectations for that mentor? Because we have them in the Apples program, but so now you have an employee who is in need of assistance, whether it is assigned to them or they request it. What is the job expectation of that mentor? Is it the same as an Apples mentor, or is there something different?
I don't think being a mentor is a job. So I think that's the first. I think a mentor is a mentor. So when you're asking me what their job duties are, I don't think an individual, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there a job description for a mentor? It is a job. Okay, so it's a supplement. All right, so there's your answer. Look at the job description.
But it's an Apples mentor, and I'm wondering if it's the same thing. I'm just.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Joe.
I don't think we have like pear or orange or whatever other mentors to stick with, like Kevin was saying, the acronyms and other things. I think you're either an Apple's mentor, or you are not. So I think if you're saying, I'm someone who wants to be mentored, but I'm not in the Apple's mentor program, is that person that's mentoring me, someone that's gone through all of that stuff, has the same expectations? I would say probably not, but I would also kind of wonder what they are doing and how it is that's being done. My understanding is that there are schools that have done kind of like an Apples 2 within their school to say, okay, you might be an experienced teacher, but you're new to our school, and so we're going to do things to kind of help support your onboarding and make sure that you feel comfortable, and that you're not wandering the hallways, where to go and who has the answers to what questions, and kind of building community. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, or if it's more of the, I want to be better, who can I learn from type stuff.
Anna. And then Rosie's going to step out of the box for a minute because she has something to add. So go ahead, Anna.
Okay. Because this is new contract language and this is not currently anywhere in the contract. So if I was given, if someone who was an annual contract teacher decided that they wanted to activate this language, and I've completed the clinical education training, so then my principal comes to me and says, hey, this person wants to obtain, highly effective, we're activating this from the contract, blah, 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 blah. I would want to know what my job expectations are. And I'm just going to be very honest for a second that there's a lot of people in our district, veteran teachers, that do not want to continue doing the clinical education training. I know that is a challenge that I think it's great. I love being a facilitator for it, but I know that it is a challenge. And I know that there is a mindset of teachers that the supplement is not worth it to them. And that could be a small percentage of our district. It could be a large percentage of our district. So everyone's going to say, am I going to get paid to do this? And if we end up in a situation, Carl always says unintended consequences. We don't want people not continuing clinical ed training because they're given mentor after mentor, mentee after mentee after mentee, and they're gonna say, I'm not being compensated. So that would be my questions with that. I think it's great, but we also need to make sure that that role is defined. What are the expectations? Are they just re-enrolled in the Apples program and go through that again? Is there a supplement attached to that? Because all of that is brand new language.
Yeah, I was gonna let Rosie say something.
I'm sorry, if I can add to what Will said, I just want to clarify the importance of the terminology. The principals and assistant principals, the support and assistance that is provided is not only the Apples mentor, but we have PCT teachers, department heads, we have a whole crew. So that's why I think it's very general when it says support and assistance to the employee. It goes beyond the Apples mentor. Carl, do you agree?
I didn't even Apples with Apples. That's just the standard. I mean, that's what everybody should do. I think the support mechanism will depend on each situation and finding the best structure that will support that person. And also that person being open to it. I mean, that's a lot of it as well. You know, so sometimes I've done cross-curricular, just depends on when I'm trying to get find the extra support.
All right. Kevin? Will?
I'm wondering, just because I feel like we're down in the weeds on this issue, and I think it's a good conversation, so I don't mean to take away from it in any way by saying that. But I'm wondering, just because I know we've had some conversations, and I know you mentioned the supplement, I know we have supplement committee. I know also that the people that are Apples mentors that are working with interns, they also now receive participation credit towards career ladder. I'm wondering again, since we were talking about, I think maybe more of the people that I'm effective and I'd like to be highly effective, does some of this in your mind kind of feed into the conversation that we've been having about the career ladder and that expert level and saying, I'm not just interested in getting a good evaluation, I also want to have the highest AP pass rate, in the state, or I'm not interested in just, where I'm at, I'm continuously trying to get better. How do I connect with that person? Which again, I think that happens informally a lot. And so I'm trying to figure out if the request is, how do we formalize that, which might be part of another conversation, not related to performance evaluation, but about how we're supporting people advancing their professional skill set.
Yeah, and I think we're a little bit in the weeds enough to ask, and I'm willing to defer to the idea of what is the job description of the person who's going to be the mentor? Because I'm going to be truthful to me too. And I'm going to say this because my Apples mentee is deceased, and so I don't mind throwing her under the bus. My Apples mentee sucked. And I think we've set up a system. Mentor, yeah, sorry, yeah, mentee too. Freudian slip. My Apples mentor was not effective. She just wasn't. First off, she wasn't a classroom teacher, even though she had taught at the school for a minute, right? And I think we've changed the Apples program to have some level of accountability with mentors to make sure they're doing the things they're supposed to do to track performance, and to track their mentees' kind of performance as well. And so I think there is a need for us to semi-formalize what the role of one of these mentors might be. Not every school has a PCT. And so if you're at a school without a PCT, does that mean a PCT is being pulled from the school next door? And so theoretically this sounds wonderful, but I think we do need to work on formalizing kind of the responsibilities of the people who accept the mentorship, what they are. And that can be done in a conversation, not in this room. Statutorily, job descriptions are y'all's department, but we're more than happy to consult and work on that with you.
Are you
But
saying
then,
labor management?
yeah, but then I'm also saying I think we need to commit to a supplement tonight. Because People are being asked to do more and more, and as much as teachers love what they do and love helping others, the portrayal of teachers as heroes and self-sacrificing sometimes is demeaning to the people doing the work. The work is hard and challenging and more challenging forever, and as much as I love Jill, the idea that I would volunteer my limited free time to mentor her is a real kind of decision I would have to make. So I think, there needs to be a commitment to a supplement. But again, outside of here, there needs to be kind of a semi-formalization about what the expectations are and how we can hold somebody accountable for not meeting those expectations. Because I could get the support plan all I wanted, but if the person doesn't have responsibilities and we're not able to track those responsibilities, then I don't get better, then whose fault is it? Is it my fault for not getting better when I wasn't helped? And like, Will, you say it all the time, right? Like, my job as a coach, if your goal is to win the state championship, my goal is, I'm not guaranteeing you're going to do it, but I'm going to set you up the best way I can so you can achieve it. When you achieve it, it's all you and I helped. But I can't be held accountable because you want to be a state champion and you don't put in the work I say you need to put in, because this is what everybody else does. So I think, again, a semi-formalization of kind of the responsibilities of what these mentors are going to do, and a talk around a supplement, whether it's hourly rate for the hours they do it, whether it's a blanket, because I think Carla's right too. They're probably all going to be very individualized. Every IAP I've been a part of has been incredibly individualized using the same process. So that's all right.
So would that be an option form that labor management works out the job description of a mentor in this case?
I think that could be an option.
Okay. Then we will write that down as an option. Will?
I think it might be better for labor management, because I would want to be able to have the conversation with Dr. Martin and others in the room so that they can talk about, like you're saying, what are some of the things that they've done to improve apples. I also think, and this is a little bit more of the story and kind of fits with some of the other comments that you guys had, about sometimes my mentor is not the person in the building. Because if I'm that band director, there's 15 people that do what I do. If I'm the computer science person, if I'm, again, highly specialized, I might benefit more from having someone who is teaching the same thing as me. And so obviously then that creates some technical challenges about how do I, set up a schedule that works for both of you, make sure that you're doing some of those things. And again, I think some of that takes place organically, but if we're saying we want to kind of capture on what are the best practices in place and how is it working and how is it not working, I think that probably is a more involved conversation.
Okay. Anna, and we are down to 6 minutes.
Okay, I was just going to say that when I look at that annual contract status, that if that employee could be requesting a mentor for anything, that even taking out, so this is just a seed for that labor management conversation, even just taking out that clin ed training for just that one section, because a probationary contract status, that employee very possibly could still be in the Apples program, and then the rest of it's all pretty much defined. It's just that one thing right there, that clin ed training or job related, because maybe I need help with lesson plans, and I could just go meet real quick with my PCT or my coach, and that's within their job description already. Like, it could be maybe a lot more loose than way down in the weeds like we're thinking. So just for that conversation for labor management, I think even taking that piece out of it kind of takes off that like definition of that like official thing. It could just be a simple coaching request.
Okay. Something labor management can consider. Anybody else? All right. Anything else? Let's call Kevin.
So far, the option that I put up there is labor management handles the job description, theoretically, right? With input from people who know better than us possibly.
Right.
I really would like to have discussions around supplement too for the position. Now, if you're using again, it is in the PCT job description. So if it ends up being all PCTs, what are we taking off their plate so they can possibly mentor these, employees as well. And what happens when there's not a PCT, or what happens when there's the art teacher, the band teacher, the counselor, people kind of have those specific kind of things. But I don't want to not address the supplement issue or the pay issue for the people doing this work. So I think we're close to shutting this article, but I don't want to close it until we have some discussion around the supplement or the pay issue for these employees that do this work. And so I don't know where that leaves us, but it would be great to get this done
Okay, if
today.
we added to that option, clear description, responsibilities of a mentor, including including a supplement? Carl?
Yeah. Maybe I misheard.
Okay, perhaps I didn't hear correctly, but honestly, what I'm hearing is a lot of conversation about a concept. I don't see us being close because I think there's so many different elements to this. So when you start talking about that framework, because in my mind as a principal, there's so many aspects to this. So I know I'm not close. I just have to say that out loud. I mean, I think it's something nice that you can look at, but I think there's so many elements that have to be considered before we go down a rabbit hole of something that won't be manageable. So that's just where I am. I just have to say
And I
that.
don't think we're going to approve this article this evening. I think we're just going to look at this option that labor management is going to discuss this mentor thing further.
Okay. I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
because right now, I'm just hearing so many things out there, and I'm not.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
That's it out loud.
okay. Rob? No?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so we have an option up there that this particular paragraph and the mentor issue will go to labor management for further discussion about the responsibilities and description of a mentor, including a supplement. Iris.
I think the use of the word mentor too, maybe using a different terminology, because that is where we're getting into the weeds with apples. Because if we're talking about a different concept, if we're talking about PCTs joining in, informal assistance, then maybe the use of mentor is not the most appropriate.
All right, something else for labor management to consider. With that, can I see thumbs for option 1? Yes. Labor management to handle.
I don't think Carl's at a point where option 1 is doable. I think he wants to hear from labor management. Maybe.
Labor management to handle clear description responsibilities of a mentor, including a supplement. Labor management will bring whatever they do back to this team, as they always do. Yeah.
I don't think that's into the option. We're still discussing.
No, we're done, because it's 7 o'clock.
Go with that too.
Because we start and end on time. Rob?
I don't want to belabor anything, but somehow we got into the discussion of things somewhat unrelated to 8. I mean, so I think we can have a conversation about mentors and supplements, but I'm not sure that's exactly germane to what Chapter 8's about.
Jill, and then Kevin?
The use of the word mentor exists in this language. And so the reason why I brought this question up, and I want to, because I get it. I was probably the person who pulled us into the weeds, and I'm going to explain why. When I hear mentor, it implies long-term support. You're mentoring and coaching. That is not a I'm struggling with something, let me go to my department head so they can break it down and help me in a 20-minute conversation. When I mentor someone, I'm providing them consistent, ongoing help. It's not a, let me go in and help Will one time because he can't figure out how to do something and now he's good, he can keep it going. Mentoring someone, I think, implies a long-term thing. And so for me, I'm ClinEd trained, I'm a PCT, and if I am asked to support someone, I want to know what my job responsibilities are because I am now attempting to help an employee retain their job or move up and highly effective. And yes, that's something that helping teachers is part of my PCT job, but I'm thinking of the employee that is in jeopardy of retainment. What are my expectations? What can I hold them accountable for? What do I hold myself accountable for? Because I take mentoring and that coaching aspect in our schools very seriously because teachers need it. And so it's about making sure that everyone knows their role and what's expected of them to get that person to be reappointed. Because this all comes down to maintaining our teachers in our schools. So if we're going to say, I need you to mentor this person, what does that mean? Is it a 10-minute conversation or is it a 6 months process? Because if you say mentor them in classroom management, that's not one meeting. That can be months of work.
Okay, I think that's what labor management is going to do. Kevin, last word.
I'm good, but I don't think we're there to thumb this.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, all right.
But if labor management could do it before our next meeting, which would be
I think we're good
October
because
3rd.
October 3rd. We meet on the 14th, so there'll be time.
Okay. And with that, the next meeting is the joint meeting, September 12th, 4 o'clock, and to talk about benefits, specifically insurance. It'll be the Bonnie McFarland show. So
Bonnie was on a great show.
get ready for a lot of information and statistics to prove everything. So with that, have a good evening, and we will resume with Article 8 in October.